Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the LifeSafe Holdings PLC Interim Results Investor Presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just simply type in your questions at any time and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, we would like to submit the following poll, and I'm sure the company will be most grateful for your participation. And I'd now like to hand over to Chairman Dominic Berger. Good afternoon.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Sorry for the late time at 6 o'clock, but we're very grateful for you to join us today. Before we kick off, there's Neil Smith with me, our Chief Executive, and Mike Stillwell, our CFO, alongside us as well. But before we kick off, what we thought would be great was just to play you a short video so you can see our products in action. So, Mark, if we can play the video, that'll be great.
Ever seen a fire? A real fire. One that engulfs a room, hits 1500 degrees, kicks out thick black smoke. Ever lost a pet? Ever lost a loved one?
I just literally just sprayed it because I had faith in it, and I thought, well, it's going to work, and sprayed it straight on, and it extinguished the fire straight away.
If there is a means, a method of early intervention that is going to save your life, who in their right mind isn't going to want that?
So thanks for that. Hopefully that video has given you a bit more understanding and depth to our product and to our range of fire extinguishers. But before I hand over to Neil, who will talk through, and Mike, who will talk through our interims, I thought it'd be very useful, since probably most of you are new to LifeSafe, to talk about the genesis of our company and to give you an outlook as to the future of what we're trying to achieve with this fantastic business. So the genesis was over 5 years ago. We came together, a group of scientists, to look at this fire extinguishing space, an industry that hasn't changed in many, many years, an industry which today, we still have multiple fire extinguishers that put out different types of fire. And our research showed that, over 90% of people just didn't have any idea as to which extinguisher to pick up to use. And it was all very confusing and quite frightening. And so when we came to the market, we wanted to think differently. We wanted to take a novel and new approach to this space. And so our scientists began life looking at different types of fluids and concoctions and recipes that would do a better job than the traditional fire extinguishing space that we have at the moment. And they came up with a real novel approach to extinguishing fire. So traditionally, these extinguishers are known as suppressants. So they remove oxygen from the fire, and that's what puts them out. Whereas what our team really wanted to do was to look at creating a coolant so that it would immediately put the fire out. But the key to a coolant is that it doesn't reignite. So we spent many years in research and development, and ultimately we came up with the fluid that is now inside our Stay Safe 5-in-1 bottle. It's eco-friendly. You can ingest it, you can drink it. It doesn't taste particularly well, but what it does incredibly well is it puts out multiple types of fires, most types of fires in the home. And that, in our essence of our business, is the game changer. That fluid that sits inside this bottle is the industry game changer. So we created this wonderful fluid, this super coolant that was very effective at multiple fires. And we decided to go to market with a direct to consumer approach, given that, there are very few fire extinguishers in the home today. So we know in the United Kingdom, 17% of homes have a fire extinguisher. Well, that leaves 22 million homes in the UK without one. similar statistics across the world. And so we decided that why don't we package up our fluid in a very easy to use, environmentally friendly, package that can easily spray. You don't need to service it. And it puts out all fires. Why don't we package that and take it to the consumer marketplace? And launching with Amazon, and we were invited by Amazon Launchpad, an invite-only program with Amazon to develop sustainable, ethical, high-growth businesses. We launched in the UK last year in 21, late in 21, in Europe as well, and this year in February in North America. And the interims we're going to talk about is going to show all the growth that we've seen in that fantastic direct-to-consumer marketplace. And we have the mantra within LifeSafe that every home should have a LifeSafe 5-in-1. We liken it to the WD-40 of the fire extinguishing world. But it's really important to remember and to really think about that is only the tip of the iceberg. So this huge addressable market in homes that don't have fire extinguishers is obviously where we're driving hard and we're seeing fantastic growth. But the rest of the the rest of the marketplace, where we're going to hopefully start seeing our fluid in sprinkler systems, in canisters, is really the size of the prize that we're going after. Ultimately, here at LifeSafe, what we're trying to be is a company that is the #1 fluid provider of fire extinguishing fluid in the world. We know it can save lives. We know it's environmentally friendly, and we know that this is a very novel approach. And I forgot to mention that the fluid is patented, so we've done all of the intellectual property protection that goes alongside this. So hopefully that's given you a flavor of where we're going to go. In terms of our numbers in the market, from our broker research, WH Ireland, this year we're looking at 3 million and next 5.5. That is all in the sales of this product. So when we start talking about the industrial opportunity of our fluid within extinguishers, with our new fluid derivative that Neil's going to talk about, that it addresses fantastically lithium ion fires, then none of those numbers are baked into our projections. So to give you a flavor that of where we're trying to go with this business, hopefully that helps. I probably steal some of your thunder, Neil. I always tend to do some of that. So on that note, I will pass over to our Chief Executive, Neil Smith, who will take you through the overview and headlines of our interim financial numbers. We listed on AIM in July, so we're very young, and our ticker is LIFS. But rather I choke, I'll pass on to Neil to take you through the details.
That's great. Thanks, Dom. And again, thanks for your time, everyone, this evening. Looking at the overview of the first half performance, we are very, very pleased at LifeSafe with the performance of the first half. Despite the significant workload associated with listing the business in July, the team maintained a really strong laser-guided focus on executing our plan. And we've seen that evidenced through the revenue. Mike will go through those numbers shortly. We generated revenue of 1.3 million in the first half, which is ahead of our expectations. But importantly, it's not just about the revenue. We were really pleased with very, very strong margins indeed of 56% growth, in line with our expectations for the first half of the year. But we've also implemented our strategic plan, which is very much, as Dom has said, about developing different fluids and different applications for our fluids. So we've announced this week 3 new patent applications, including the new lithium-ion battery fire extinguishing fluid that I'll talk about more in a minute, but also derivatives and developments of our FER 1000 fluid, which is contained within the Stay Safe 5-in-1, which is the #1 best-selling fire extinguisher on Amazon in the UK and has been so for almost, for a year now. It's been the bestseller. And all of that means that we are building a really exciting pipeline in terms of new products, new markets and new customers as well. So just moving on to the next slide. Thanks, Dom. It's really important to recognize and appreciate that we are operating in markets that are both large and growing on a global basis. As a business, we operate across 3 different channels: consumer, predominantly digital at the moment, wholesale, and industrial. And as we move forward, more and more of our business will be in the industrial sector, which is the bulk supply of our fluids into mass industrial applications. Let's first start with digital. So our first channel. We operate in the UK, in Europe, and in North America across 2 digital platforms, Amazon and the LifeSafe platform. In terms of Amazon, as Dom says, we were invited to join the Amazon Launchpad platform, which is a platform that Amazon have created to support products and businesses that they define as being innovative and sustainable. So our StaySafe 5-in-1 is the only fire extinguisher on Amazon Launchpad. And that very, very close partnership with Launchpad, where we have our own account team to help grow our business, has been phenomenal. That's really helped us scale and grow the business. As Dom says, we launched in the UK in August of last year, in Europe in October, and in the US in February of this year. In the UK, there are 15 million Amazon Prime members. In the US, there's 150 million Amazon Prime members. We launched in the US in the middle of February. From the middle of February to the end of June, we generated revenue of £561,000 in that very, very narrow window. Right here, right now, our sales on a weekly basis in the US are now outstripping the UK. So we are really, really pleased with the growth within the US. And there is so much more to go after as well. And for every pound that we spend on digital marketing, we get £3 back in terms of revenue. So it's an incredibly successful and exciting channel. But it's not the only one. The second sales channel is wholesale. So that's the bulk supply of our finished products, such as the 5-in-1. We're delighted and very proud indeed to be supplying into Screwfix across their 740 branches across the UK. And we have been in Screwfix since February of this year. We also debuted on the TV shopping channel TJC with the StaySafe 5-in-1. And that was a great learning for us, because actually we sold out very, very quickly. And it's a very, very exciting opportunity in terms of TV shopping, both in terms of the UK, also Europe, and of course the US, where TV shopping is a market that's worth $15 billion a year. Also, from a wholesale perspective, we are looking to partner with appropriate wholesalers and distributors in the UK, Europe, and also North America. And North America will be our biggest single market. As I said earlier, it's not just about the revenue, it's also the margins. We have a very, very cost-effective channel through digital. As we move forward, we will continue to enhance and improve our margins through a series of initiatives and opportunities. Not least, the more we're selling within the industrial sector, that will also be beneficial in terms of the overall margins for our business. When Mike goes through the numbers in a minute, you'll see that the growth of the business has been dramatic. We couldn't have scaled at the pace that we have and served the quality of customers such as Screwfix without the support of our manufacturing partners. All of our products are third-party contract manufactured, which has meant that we've been able to scale without any investment from ourselves. But it's not just the scale, it's also the quality as well. So, for example, our bottle manufacturer, they produce bottles for the likes of Unilever, Procter & Gamble, they produce 40 billion bottles a year. We actually have the exclusivity worldwide for this bottle within the fire extinguishing sector. So we're partnering and working with world-class manufacturers, and that's really allowed us to scale, and it will continue to allow us to scale at pace. And we're a technology business, first and foremost. And that's the technology that we've invested in new fluids, derivations, and uses and applications of our fluids. So moving on to talk about our fluids in a little bit more detail. It's essential that we continue to invest in innovation and continue to lead in this space. We've developed the next generation of fluid for the StaySafe 5-in-1 that we'll be launching in the first half of next year. From an industrial perspective, we've spent the past 16 months developing a fluid that is incredibly effective at dealing with lithium-ion battery fires. So as we all know, there's an increasing amount of electric vehicles on the road, not just in the UK, but right around the globe. And it's not just cars, it's electric scooters, it's trucks, it's buses, and also in the home. More and more of us have got connected devices, and that's all being driven through lithium-ion batteries. With that increased usage becomes more and more risk and danger of fire. In fact, there was an article this week of an electric bike that had unfortunately caught fire, and that resulted in a fire in that particular flat where it was being charged. So this is a real challenge, and it's a growing challenge and risk. We've been presenting our lithium-ion fluid to a series of industry stakeholders, ranging from various different sectors, vehicle recovery and insurance. And in showing our product in real life fire situations and showing how effective our product is, we're now in a position, having filed our patent, so protecting our IP, we have now shipped our fluids to various different corners of the globe, and our fluid is now being tested by these industry leaders and innovators within various different applications. So we're really excited as we look to the future of the opportunity, not just to continue to drive growth in this huge market. And as Dom says, we believe every home should have a StaySafe 5-in-1. So this huge consumer market, the growing wholesale market, and then this incremental opportunity to supply fluid in bulk into industrial applications. So moving on to the numbers, Mike, if you could provide an overview and a flavour of the numbers for the first half.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neil. To get a real appreciation of the first half performance, I think we need to firstly recap on 2021. And this was the first period in which the business's strategy was redefined to that of digital first, as Neil mentioned previously, as he joined the team in that year. And this really transformed the business for the first real commercial sales of the 5-in-1, with revenue largely in the last few months of 2021 increasing to £670,000. And that reflected only 4 months on Amazon Prime in the UK, and just 2 infancy startup months in France and Germany. No sales at all into either the US or Canada in that period. So through sales of the 5-in-1, both individually and in packs with our range of complementary smoke, heat and CO detectors, the first half of 2022 saw us generate revenue of £1.3 million, already almost double that of the full year of 2021. And this half saw us begin trading in the US in February, in Canada in April, and at the same time to continue to grow the UK and the European markets. And this 1.3 was slightly ahead of where we expected to be, as growth in these markets was stronger than expected. And we also benefited from the favourable US dollar income translation rates. At 56%, our gross margin was £709,000. And the majority of the direct costs that are within that number comprise fulfillment and postage costs, and also the commission costs of operating through Amazon, which of course gives us access to a global platform. Before IPO costs and share-based payment charges, our underlying operating loss for the half was £729,000, and that was in line with our expectations for this stage of the company's growth, with the majority of overheads comprising digital advertising spend, of course, to drive sales and staff costs. Due to the timing of the IPO, we didn't receive the IPO funds until the 6th of July, which is, of course, after the period end. But what we did have at the 30th of June were committed placing letters held by the broker. Hence, it's more appropriate to show our net cash position as including the £3 million that we generated through the IPO. And that's, of course, before the payment of IPO costs, which took place across July and August, rather. And finally, our capitalised R&D balance stood at £302,000 at the 30th of June, as we work to develop and continue to develop exciting new product derivations, for which will apply for R&D tax credits in the normal course of things, as we've done in the past successfully. Turning now to the income statement, the P&L for the first half reflects the growth in revenue that we've seen in the period, and also the infrastructure costs to support the business at this stage of its development. As described before, revenue was 1.3 million, from which we generated our margin of 56%, and our underlying operating loss was 729,000, as I said, in line with where we thought we would be at the time of the IPO, in line with where we are for progress of the business. Our convertible loan interest of £573,000 in the period was all non-cash, and all the convertible loans converted to equity on IPO on admission to AIM. So after that interest and after non-underlying IPO and share-based payment charges, our accounting loss for the first half was £2.2 million. But significantly, a big 1.5 million of that cost is IPO and funding related and will not recur. So £729,000 loss represents our current run rate position. Turning now to the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet. Our balance sheet is very simple. Let me give you a flavour of the key movements. As I explained, we had £302,000 of capitalised development spend, reflecting the costs incurred in developing and testing our existing and new technologies and bringing them to market that will, of course, generate revenue and margin in the future. We had cash at bank of £22,000, but also those committed placing letters, which amounted to £3 million held by the broker at the end of the half, and they converted into cash, came to us on the 6th of July. And we've got the remainder of a small coronavirus bounce back loan with HSBC of £29,000, which we continue to pay down in the normal course of things. At the 30th of June, we still had convertible loan balances on the balance sheet of 1.7 million. But as I said, all of those have now converted to equity on the 6th of July on admission to AIM, and they've therefore gone. And we had 1.1 million of net current liabilities, around £1 million of which related to accrued IPO costs, which were paid down from IPO proceeds in July and August. And we had £300,000 worth of stock, because we consciously ensured that we had certainty of supply given the uncertain macroeconomic climate, and also the necessity to ensure we have supply into our new and growing markets, particularly the US. So it's been a very busy operational and corporate period for the business. Since the end of the half, we've seen revenue continue to grow as we've gained increased traction with the digital marketing spend we've made, and also as we've launched our 5-in-1 bundle offerings, which have consequently increased our average transaction value and been additive to margin as the fulfillment costs reduce relatively as you supply more units. And of course, we've continued to very much benefit from the current state of the US dollar versus the pound, given our US dollar income translation into GBP.
Thanks, Mike, for that. So look, in summary, before we move on to questions, we got through the IPO in times I'm sure we can all agree have been very tough, but we got the IPO away in July of this year. Our revenue is up significantly, double that already for the whole of last year, maintaining very strong gross margins, which we hope to improve on by various different strategies, including, as one person's alluded to in the questions, manufacturing in the United States for our distribution over there. We've recently launched in Canada, so we hope that's going to sort of bring more revenue for us. We've successfully got the patent granted of our core fluid, which was really important to us just after the period end. The new developments that we've been working on, specifically improving the existing fluid, but also in the lithium ion space, gives us a huge amount of optimism for next year in the opportunity that is presenting itself already with many different kinds of companies approaching us as our brand and our products gain traction. We've got some great new products and derivatives for next year that we're working on. Our sales are continuing to grow ahead of expectations. We are Q4 weighted, but we're all very optimistic about where we are and where we will be at our year end. Hopefully at the beginning here, again, I'm just going to reiterate, the size of this opportunity. We believe every home in the world should have a Stay Safe 5-in-1, and why wouldn't you? But more importantly, but equally as important, we're very optimistic about the potential of our fluid within the wider industrial marketplace. So thank you for your time, Mark. I'll hand back to you, sir.
That's very kind. Thank you very much indeed. And to Dominic, Neil and Mike for updating investors this afternoon. Could I please ask you to continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. But just while Mike, Dominic and Neil take a few moments to review your questions submitted already, I'd just like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your Investor Meet company dashboard. Dominic, if I may hand back to you, as you can see, you've received a number of questions through today's presentation. So thank you firstly to everybody for their engagement. And if I may just ask you to read out those questions and where appropriate, of course, to then give a response. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Mark. So the first one's from James. Hi, James. How disruptive are your products compared to those in the market, and what and who are you displacing in the market? So I'm going to hand that one to Neil.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mark. I think in terms of how disruptive we are, I think first and foremost, the fact that we launched in August on Amazon Prime, and within a matter of weeks, we became the #1 best-selling fire extinguisher on Amazon, I think demonstrates that we've got a product here that really resonates with people who, for all the reasons Dom said earlier, didn't buy a fire extinguisher because they're really confused as to which one to buy. And that's why only 17% of homes in the UK today have a fire extinguisher. So actually, we believe here that we're creating a new market, and we're using digital in a really effective way where we're engaging with people. We're targeting people in the right way, and we're driving the conversion. I think that's evidenced by the fact that for every £1 we spend on digital marketing, we're getting £3 back. So we're reaching out to consumers in the right way, with the right content, with the right product. And that's really helping, I think, growing the awareness and growing the sales.
And just quickly to build on that, in terms of the industrial offering, we're looking to displace, the existing fluid technologies that exist within that, be it CO2, foam, or water. Thanks, Neil. Steve, good evening. Do you intend to take LifeSafe internationally, and would you consider international expansion through partnership? I mean, I can take that one, Neil, if you don't mind. Sure, absolutely. We are international already. We're in the US and in Europe. And we intend to go wider than that. And equally, where there are countries that would warrant a partnership, we would look at a partnership approach, particularly countries that have significant cultural differences to perhaps our knowledge base. So absolutely, it is our intention to be a global provider of both fluid and the Stay Safe 5-in-1. Steve, again, what is the lifespan of your product? How long before an unused can, I guess, needs replacing, and how ESG friendly are they? Neil?
Yeah, so in terms of the Stay Safe 5-in-1, the bottle conforms to BS 5597, which requires a 3-year shelf life. However, I've personally used products which are 5 years old. The pressure continues to be exactly the same. The fluid performs exactly the same, but it has, because of BS 5597 and the aerosol directive, it has a 3-year lifespan. So of course, the opportunity for us is to reach out to those customers who are buying now in 3 years' time for the replacement cycle. In terms of ESG, well, actually, for us to supply into Kingfisher Group, Screwfix, all of our suppliers are SEDEX approved. SEDEX is an independent organisation that reviews supply chains in terms of ethical, the correct processes, procedures in place. Not just our suppliers, but also LifeSafe were audited by SEDEX. I'm delighted to say that we fully passed and met all of their ESG requirements for SEDEX approval, and to also meet all the very stringent requirements for the Kingfisher Group. In terms of our product, the bottle is fully recyclable. The fluid is environmentally friendly, non-toxic. So very, very, very good in terms of ESG as a business and as a product set.
Thanks, Neil. Henry, good evening. Will you look to manufacture the fluid in overseas territories to reduce shipping costs and improve margins further? I think I'll hand that to you, Mike.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, we will when volumes dictate. The US is the obvious choice in order to reduce logistics charges and ensure the speed of supply, and we would expect that to obviously reduce cost extent of the logistics charges. And the second part,
Maybe improve margins.
Yeah, absolutely. Be margin accretive as we do that.
Thank you, Mike. Evening, Mark. Can you explain more about what makes your fluid unique? What kind of applications are you thinking of expanding into? And what's the addressable market? Neil, why don't you start with that, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Mark. What makes our fluid unique? Our fluid is a super coolant, and what makes our fluid unique is the fact that it can extinguish fires very, very quickly indeed, but also ensures that those fires don't reignite. And typically, other fire extinguishing fluids are suppressant, they suck the oxygen out. Ours operates in a very, very different way and a more effective way. In terms of the fluid as well, it's not just the performance, it's the environmentally friendly aspect of our fluid as well. For example, foam, which is one of the traditional fire extinguishing fluids, you will see that foam is becoming, because of its environmental credentials, many countries around the world are now forbidding the use of foam within fire extinguishers. In terms of the markets, from an industrial perspective, this is very much where how our fluid could be applied into different applications. We are the fluid experts, and our strategy with the fluids going into industrial sectors is to partner with industry leaders and industry innovators in terms of how we can combine our chemical expertise with their expertise in terms of, for example, sprinkler systems. We want to be working with leaders within that space as one example, but that's just one example. And there's a multitude of opportunities and applications of our industrial fluid. And we're right at the beginning of the journey. You know, we actually thought it would take us a little bit longer to get the breakthrough, but we actually got the breakthrough in terms of our lithium-ion fluid around about 5 or 6 months ago. And then we've spent that subsequent time refining, but also demonstrating the product. And to be honest, Mark, I thought it would take us longer to get some of the engagement, but actually we've seen a lot of people and organizations really wanting to attend these events because there is a real challenge and there's a real need out there for lithium-ion battery fire extinguishing fluids. So as we look ahead, that's why we're particularly excited about this opportunity in terms of this incremental sales into this industrial market.
Thanks, Neil. That was great. I mean, and just to echo Neil's comment, you know, every home should have one. That's an enormous addressable market in itself, and I'm sure we're all aware of fire legislation and fire extinguishers in the workplace, in the boats, in hotels, and and in warehouses, and that is again enormous. So hopefully we become the de facto fluid for putting out fires.
That's great, Dominic. Thank you very much indeed, and also to Neil and Mike for your time this afternoon. As you see, you've taken every question from investors this evening, so thank you to all of you for your engagement. Neil, I know investor feedback is important to you and to the rest of the company, and I'll shortly redirect those on the call to give you their thoughts and expectations. But I wonder, before doing so, if I may just ask you for a few closing comments, and then I'll send investors to give you their feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And yes, thank you to everybody for your time and your questions this evening. Very much appreciate that. And we hope that today's presentation has been helpful in providing more of an insight to our business and the direction of travel. We're really, really excited about the future of LifeSafe. And thank you again for your time this evening.
That's great. Thank you very much, Neil. Ladies and gentlemen, please can I ask you not to close this session, as we'll now automatically redirect you for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This may take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of LifeSafe Holdings PLC, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good evening to you all.